In Business Tonight, in what could be the strongest sign yet that China Evergrande Group can't hope for a government bailout, authorities are reportedly asking local governments to prepare for its potential downfall. The troubled developer owes almost $670 million in interest for the rest of the year. That includes $83.5 million due today. Evergrande's woes have caught the attention of a Swiss central bank. It joins its Indonesian counterpart in saying it is monitoring the situation. A Swiss National Bank chief, Thomas Jordan, says it is wrong to dismiss Evergrande as a local small problem. What seemed like small issues could unsettle markets. Earlier, Indonesia's finance minister warned Evergrande's woes could affect the world economy. Well, for a closer look, I'm joined by Chief Asia Economist from Capital Economics, Mark Williams. Well, Mark, still no word from Evergrande on that dollar bond interest repayment. So is this a cause for concern? And what's next?
Well, it doesn't look good, does it? I mean, they're not in default on this bond payment, as I understand it, as long as they pay within the next month. But if they're having to push back the payment, that just underlines how difficult it is for them to drum up the cash right now. And as you just said, there's a lot of cash that they need to hand over to creditors just over the next few weeks. And altogether, they've got $300 billion worth of liabilities. So whether or not they make this payment, I don't think we should overdo this specific payment, because it's a drop in the ocean, really, of their total liabilities.
Yeah, and do you think Evergrande can pull through this crisis now that it appears that the government will not bail it out?
No, I mean, I don't think it looked likely that they could pull through anyway. But that really is the death blow if the government isn't going to stand behind them. I think that when you look at this $300 billion of US dollars worth of liabilities, there's no way that all of those can be covered. The government's priority right now will be to try and organise a managed resolution, which I think will probably involve a breakup of the company, with other developers taking over some projects, local governments maybe taking over other bits. They'll be trying to make sure that households that have put down deposits for properties that haven't yet been built get something back. There's loads of suppliers out there that have been paid in IOUs. They'll also be higher up in the priority list. But what's left over when all those people are paid, it may not be a great deal, and that's what the creditors, the bondholders, and the Chinese banks that have lent to Evergrande will have to fight over, and they're certainly not going to get all their money back.
Yes, so at this point, our central bankers in different parts of the world, right to be concerned about what's going on.
So I think there's two separate issues that it's worth separating out. One is a lot of people have talked about Lehman moments in China blowing up, and whether or not Evergrande could be a systemic threat to China's financial system. And I don't think that is a huge risk for China. The People's Bank has tools to step into the financial market to stabilize things, to stand behind its banks if it wants to, and why wouldn't it? Since it's had it's seen what happened after Lehman's collapse. It's had a dry run with the takeover of Baoxiang Bank back in 2019. So I don't think there's a particularly high risk of a major financial crisis in China emanating from this. And certainly I can't see how that transfers to the rest of the world, given that China has a relatively closed financial system. I mean, total offshore bonds of Evergrande are worth $18 billion, which is, nothing really. Where I do think that central bankers in the rest of the world should be focusing is on the risk that what we're seeing now triggers a sharper than most people expect downturn in China's property sector. My central expectation is that the property sector will slow. It will be a headwind to China's growth over the next few quarters, next few years, really, but it won't slump. However, we can't be sure about that, particularly if what's happening shifts the psychology of buyers. Now, a lot of people buy property in advance in China. 90% of new properties are bought before they're finished. If people start to think, well, maybe that's a bit risky, then that will lead to a pullback in sales. So if that happens, then the broader property sector faces a big slump, and that would have big repercussions around the world that central bankers and investors will have to pay attention to.
Well, thank you very much. Mark Williams there from Capital Economics.